and welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I'm your host, Ashley. Probably joining me today, Ciaran Martin.
Everybody, I'm here today with you, Ashley, to ask the important question that I've been lingering on this entire week.
Okay.
Am I an Xbox?
I think so.
Oh God, I thought I wasn't. Oh no. Oh, this puts up a whole bunch of new questions to consider.
What an interesting marketing campaign.
What a great marketing campaign. I think it's actually pretty good. I'm pretty high on it. I think it is important for Xbox to also have a bit of fun with their marketing for once, but also at the same time to really sell to people that aren't in the gaming sphere that they don't need to buy an Xbox to.
Is that really the message you want to get across? You don't need to buy this box that we sell.
I think so, because I think it's because even just showing the laptop, showing the Asus, the ROG or the Ally, like it showing, with the continued further rumors of development of the Xbox handheld, I think it's just more and more. And this week with Steam Deck coming out, I think there's more and more aspects of it being like, hey, maybe not so much for us in Australia because cloud gaming side of things isn't really that big of an option so far. But as a whole, like, I think it's still getting that message across of being like, hey, yeah, maybe our hardware side of things we're not doing so well, but as people start getting into things like, hey, I remember Gears of War when I was a kid. I want to play Gears of War again. Or, hey, I've always wanted to try Gears of War. When E-Day comes out, Game Pass, getting it in there that people can be like, oh, I can subscribe through my TV and get Game Pass through my TV that way. Yeah, I think it's a good message to start getting out there and start being across of properly to the kind of general public and wider audiences.
Yeah, I don't know if people are still people are on board with streaming their games. I don't know if that's something. Obviously, we've seen such demand for physical media still that people are very upset that the PS5 Pro doesn't have a disc tray. And I think there's so much people want to own their stuff. I don't know if they trust the streaming element of it. And then also, if you fuck up, is it your fault or is it something happened with the stream?
But what do you mean by fuck up? As in, like,
if I miss a jump, if my timing is slightly off, is it my fault or is it the stream's fault?
No, because that same thing is every crux of every excuse of anybody who's ever played an online multiplayer game. It's coming to my single player games. I don't think it'll be that bad. I don't think it'll be that bad. That's why it isn't so much of an option now in Australia, because internet as a whole isn't isn't a good platform for infrastructure wise for streaming of video games at the moment.
You have reasonably fast internet.
I have very fast internet, so I think I could do it fine.
Yeah. So how far away do you reckon that he's streaming?
The thing is, I don't think it's so much. The thing is, I have the top of the line. Like recently, I actually went into it. I was in a Telstra shop for another thing. I got asked the question, how much is, like, how are you for internet? And I explained, and I told them to play, and they kind of instantly were like, oh, okay, fuck, righto. Because Telstra don't really have anything that they can compete with the Aussie broadband connections.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple problems where it's like, even when I'm talking to, say, like, I had a conversation with my boss recently about his internet, being like, okay, what do you like? His internet at the moment, he's only running on like a 25 meg link, which is like, okay, but even for streaming and stuff, like 100's fine. Like, 100 would be fucking plenty for him, and you wouldn't have any issues with streaming things. You wouldn't have any issues. But I think the overall Australian infrastructure, I think I'm very lucky in regional Victoria, where we got the NBN rolled out very early. The moment you get more regional, you get onto the kind of not the real wired NBN, but it's like all through like the satellite dishes. I do think Starlink's an interesting option. Like, my parents have just moved over to Starlink for for not just so they can, because they're going away a lot more in their caravan, so they can take Starlink with them and
Oh,
use that as
okay, yeah,
part of their
that makes
caravan.
sense.
But also they're about to move into a more regional property again, so that'll kind of provide them, because let me tell you, like the period of time I lived with them and we were in a regional property, like internet was fucking disgraceful, was dire,
Mm.
like it hurt me as somebody, and that's, it's quite the point. I'm in the current
Oh,
house
you were
with
only
the.
80 megabytes per second. It was crazy.
It was no, it was. I think if I was like 70 on the best possible day, and below that, it was often like 25 to 50. But yeah, no, I just think it's more Australia's infrastructure as a whole, switching over from copper, getting more fiber in places, more fiber to the node. I think it's more the actual physical infrastructure in Australia. We had the point where it was originally being rolled out as fiber, and then it got rolled back to copper because people are cheapskates. Um, yeah, it sucks. It's just where it is in development wise, and you know, one thing is like, okay, cool. It looks like we've got hope with the integration of internet, and then at the same time, there's stuff like the social media ban that's going, that we've already discussed.
Yep.
That's like, that also shows uh, a backwards thought process when it comes to all things internet, all
Yep.
things social medias, which could have a negative impact on that. So, I think as a whole, it's yeah,
So
we've still
not
got a
anytime soon.
no. And also, it's the case of, I guess, the most people's standard, most people will either run off the router that they're given by their um, IP provider, like by
Hmm.
the internet provider, um, or they'll have some fucking Netgear that they're running for 20 years, or they're all running off Wi-Fi because so many people have been hard hammered into them that Wi-Fi is just the best solution. And it's like, well, yeah, it can be, but not yet. I don't know. There's still just a fair bit of work to do across the board here.
Mm. So what you're saying is, here in Australia, the TV is not an Xbox.
No, TV is not an Xbox. No, the TV wants to be an Xbox, but the TV can't be an Xbox
It
because
can't be an
it can't
Xbox.
be.
All right. On today's show, we'll be talking about a bit of video game news, but first, we're going to cross to a previous conversation I had with Aaron Dylan Blight about Lego Horizon Adventures. All right, Dylan, you've played Lego Horizon Adventures, a spin-off of one of PlayStation's biggest IPs, in the stylings of Lego, which is a long-running video game lineage. What did you think of this new title?
Yeah, so reviewed it. Review's up now. Gave it a 6 out of 10. I was pretty disappointed with it, to be honest. Um, it does the worst thing it could do, which I think is it takes the Horizon franchise and doesn't use enough of what makes that interesting, and then it also takes Lego and doesn't take enough of what makes those games fun and exciting and well beloved, and you sort of just end up with this meh. It's the biggest way. Like the second you start playing it and you get into these the levels, you're like, oh, it's pretty. Like, look at all like it's very nice looking. It's highly detailed. Like, it's probably one of the better looking Lego games. Awesome. And you start like wandering around, and automatically, your Lego brain goes on, and I start wanting to hit things to get the bricks. No, don't need to do that. No, you don't need to. Like, you can only break a couple of things in the levels. Everything else is unbreakable. It's just, you don't have to you don't have to collect the 100% bricks. Okay, maybe there's still secrets and stuff to find. Oh, there's like every now and then you can find like one of two things, I think, to build that gives you some bricks that you can use to upgrade your character. But that's it. There's no secrets to find. There's no reason to really explore the levels. It's just, and I think the longer I play it, the more and more bland the levels start to become, because they all play out the same, which is that you, and I guess if you're playing co-op, someone else, of I think there's four playable characters in the game total. Four. Lego games usually have, I don't know, 50 to 100, right?
Feels
A
like it.
lot, usually a lot. Um, but you wander through the level. There'll be some slight platforming, maybe a little, if you want to call it quote unquote puzzle solving, if it's that. And you'll end up in an arena twice, usually during a level. And in the arena, this is where you're facing down against the robot dinosaurs, right? Which they just call them in this. They straight up just call them robo dinosaurs in this.
They don't call them machines.
No, what the dinosaur machines maybe, but they specifically say dinosaur machines, which I'm like, they let them say the thing. But yeah, so you end up in these little arenas, and it's, I guess the combat is the one thing they tried to get right, and it is fun to a degree, which is that you still have Aloy's focus that you can press a button and it like highlights the weak points on the machines, and then you have to shoot their weak spots to damage them. Well, I mean, you can damage them anyway, but it does fuck all damage unless you're shooting them in their weak spots. You will randomly pick up different weapons as you play through the level, and the more your normal bow is obviously unlimited, but then you can pick up like a fire bow or electric bow or ice bow, whatever, these things that will run out like after 12 shots or what have you. And then you can also pick up like a special weapon, which could be a trip caster that has a limited amount of uses and stuff like that. But then there's also random shit like was it I think it's a hot dog or a taco van or some random ass thing that you can put down that fires those up into the air that basically drop like bombs for some reason. I mean, the combat's fine. Like it's definitely the part that stands out and feels the most rising. But again, like they try and do an element of like you can land, you can slide down a zip line, you can land in the grass, and you can stealth your way to the back enemy to initiate combat. But that's it. Like you just stealth around to initiate the first stage of combat through stealth. There's no like stealth way you can sneak around and take down
Take out everybody.
yeah, like without ever setting off the alarm. It's just you stealthing through grass to get the one shot off, because you can't one hit anyone in this, and you can't walk up to them and stealth kill them like you can in the normal game anyway. So okay. So after a while, I was like, well, I can't be fucked. Like I drop down, we go, guns loud straight away. I'm like, I can't be bothered stealthing just for this one shot.
Seeing as I assume you were playing by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So was it just you as the singular character? There were no companions?
There is for a little bit, and then like once you fit the tutorial part, then you just by yourself.
Okay.
That's it.
Were you playing as Aloy the entire time?
No, I switched out to some of the other characters just to play as them. They do play slightly different. They have different weapons, but at the end of the day, everyone's weapon's still some like form of ranged weapon, because that's sort of how the combat's designed.
Okay.
I mean, you can, without even playing in co-op, I'm sure it's a little bit more fun in co-op, as most games are when you
Probably
play
a little bit
anything in
easier.
co-op. Yeah, probably a little bit easier as well. But I mean, I don't think it would change the game drastically. It is local co-op, it is online co-op, so cool. The story is like they do the Lego thing where they do a pretty good job at distilling down the narrative from Horizon Zero Dawn, to sort of playing around all the more traumatic elements about like trauma from Aloy's past and whatnot. You still have characters die in it, but it's sort of played off as a gag rather than like, oh no, sad moment and all these sorts of things. It does the Lego thing where it makes characters into silly little bits. Like,
can you hit that boy with a rock?
What boy?
During like the trial, you have a choice between throwing a rock at a boy.
Oh
or
no,
not.
no, that's nothing. But other characters become quite like weirdly. I don't know if it's a spoiler or how much they keep it secret. So one of the characters that you can play as, you unlock is a playable character, is like the older lady who is the nice one out of the group.
Oh,
who,
yeah.
like gives you the whatever her name is, right?
Advice.
The one
who
finds you and gives you to the dude who raises you. Whatever. All these characters, man.
That's fine.
Fuck, where was I going? What was I saying? Can't remember. Yeah, so you can, but you can. The other thing is, knowing is you can upgrade your characters using the 4 characters using the little amount of Lego bricks that you get by like basically completing levels and stuff. But I fully leveled up Aloy, got it to level 20, fully brought all of her unlocks, and I could not tell you the difference. Like, I do not feel like she's stronger, and I do not feel like all these things that like this attack does more damage, or but like the game's telling me it's doing things, I just don't feel it. Which is when you're spending time upgrading character too, I just feel like super disappointing. The other thing is between levels, you go back to Mother's Heart, which is like the main town hub thing from the first game, the main town area. You sort of can run around that. You can talk to characters there. You can as you get golden bricks, which you unlock by basically looking at a challenge board in the middle of the town. It may be like kill 15 enemies with electric attacks, kill 15, like whatever, stuff like that. You get gold bricks, and you can use those to unlock different plots of land, and then on those you can place random ass buildings, which are funny for one gag, and then you sort of move on with your life. Like you place down a rocket ship, put aloy blast off into space, and then comes back down, and like all these other sorts of things. You can go into a place where you can change your costumes. There's no major crossovers with this though. Like the big brands that are in this is like, I think it's Ninjago and Ninjago. What did I say?
Ninjago.
Yeah, Django.
Yeah.
That's a different game as well.
Yeah.
That and Lego City, I think, are the two main brands. So there's no, you're not dressing Aloy up in Warner Brothers or whatever other properties.
PlayStation.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit, but even then, it's not. Lego games. I don't know. There's an element of expecting more crossovers or what have you.
Guess.
It doesn't feel like a lot. Even the PlayStation stuff, not a lot. So, it's very bare bones. I feel like I just felt like it's a bit of a missed opportunity to be completely honest, and I'm very confused about why they sort of strip so much out of it to the degree it just doesn't even feel like what I expect a Lego game to feel like to a certain degree.
But I think key thing to mention here is that this isn't done by the Lego game, like TT Games. Like this is a new studio working with Guerrilla. So I'm sure it doesn't have the same humor or or level design. But yeah, it doesn't sound super promising. From what you said and what I've heard from other places. What do you think of Silence in this game? Because obviously this is the first performance. Obviously Lance Reddick passed away, so they've recast the role.
I found the voice weird. It's nothing like Lance Reddick. It's quite odd, and also it's hard to judge. Like if he's the same dude, which I presume that's the whole thing, right? He's going to be voicing in the future Horizon.
That would be my first question.
Yeah, so I don't know. That would be my first question.
Because I assume all the other voice actors came back, and they sound like you played the remaster recently. So I mean,
they're all. I'm
sure they sound like the people in the game. Yeah,
correct. They're all fine, other than Silence. And the other thing is, it's hard to judge the voice performance in a setting for him replacing Lance Reddick, because he's playing the silly version. Silence in this, his whole thing is he's DJ Silence. Because it's a stupid Lego game and they've got bits, and so it's hard to really judge how he would play that character properly. Within this game. So
interesting. Anything else you want to mention about?
No, I don't know. I just think it's a little bit disappointing.
Do you reckon did they set up a sequel with it?
I mean, they could do the second one if they want. Sure.
I know. Was there like some sort of disconnect between obviously the Horizon games, like weird future tech? It's like, was there some stuff that didn't quite work?
I don't know.
The cloning or the end of the original world, or the creation of the machines.
They try to play around some of that, but most of it skip through. And I gotta say, as much as I'm saying this game has gags and stuff, and it has the regular amount of Lego jokes.
Here, Adelaide really likes pickle sandwiches.
Yep, really likes pickle sandwiches. I don't feel like any of the jokes and the bits are anywhere near as funny as any other Lego game. They just don't land the same. In fact, the Lego games without voice acting were funnier than this.
All right, let's get into some news for this week. It was announced that this coming Monday in America, so I guess Tuesday here in Australia, the Game Award nominations will be announced. But they may have just kind of tipped their hand to who one of the nominees may just be.
Tipped their hand.
Elden Ring, rating from Push Square, Elden Ring Shadow the Erdtree, or any other DLC add-on will be eligible to win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. An update to the FAQ on the event's official website notes, the Game Awards aim to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. The statement goes on to underline that newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. With the ballots now closed, Polygon reports the voters were aware of these rules prior to submitting the nominations. While the language in the FAQ is new, it's unclear if the Game Awards have always had this policy. For example, last year, Cyberpunk's 2077's expansion Phantom Liberty was highly acclaimed release. Although it never made the overall Game of the Year nominations, it was nominated for Best Narrative, however. So we suppose this is consistent with the above message. Nevertheless, we'd suspect the statement has now been released because Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree has made the cut and will be one of the Game of the Year nominations, set to be announced on Monday, but we're not sure how we feel about that. Ciaran, how does this make you feel?
I think it's frustrating. I think I don't know. I think even just to hedge the bets by fucking announcing it now makes me feel like, oh, okay, it's most likely going to be Game of the Year. Like I almost don't see if Shadow. Like, this is my worry, and this is why I previously was like, I don't think Shadow of the Tree will be in Game of the Year, because I think if it's in the Game of the Year conversation, I think it ends up this year specifically. I think it ends up being Game of the Year. Just because I think, like compared to some of the other contenders, I think all of the other contenders aren't as mainstream big enough for to be like actual contenders. Like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I think isn't big enough. I don't think Metaphor is big enough. Dragon Age Veilguard, I don't think is good enough to be kind of Game of the Year. I think it's good to be nominated, but I don't think it's good enough to get it. Like I just think if Shadow of the Erdtree's there, I think it kind of, once again, as these games tend to, like, especially like, Elden Ring did and Sekiro did, and I think before, I'm not sure about any of the Dark Souls before that.
No, I don't think they had.
Maybe Bloodborne did,
no,
but
I don't think so.
But yeah, no, I think we are on track for it to be, very high up there in the nominees.
Yeah, I don't like the precedent. I just, I don't think it should be in the Game of the Year category.
I guess the only thing is,
it's not a complete game. It's an additive experience to another game that got released. It's great. I've heard it's fantastic. Obviously, you look at the scores, it's the best scoring thing that was released this year for video games. But it's not the Game of the Year.
We've got a problem then.
What?
Because technically it would capture, and I know I've had this in the Game of the Year and it's been a part of Explosion Network's Game of the Years, is Final Fantasy 14. Endwalker was in our top 10. And that's technically an expansion.
I can't comment on that. We may have restricted the rules since then,
I feel that, no, because that's the thing, right? I do feel like, yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, I actually think Shadow of the Erdtree, for that same thing, because you would nominate, like, if a World of Warcraft expansion was that amazing and that good, you would nominate that. Or, as I did with
Game of the Year, though.
For Game of the Year, yeah, if it was that good.
I mean, there's plenty of other categories to consider it for.
But this is the thing, when it's... At what point, looking back at it, I think The Witcher 3's DLCs are both large enough and good enough in other aspects that they could have been considered for Game of the Year. I do think I don't think it's great. Like, I wish full games were the category. But it's not. It's just Game of the Year. So I guess this is the thing. Actually, yeah. I think it's a hard and nuanced discussion, because it's like, how do you like rule it? How do you litigate it in terms of like what would define something that would be worth it? Like Cyberpunk 2077's like the Phantom Liberty. Like how would you define that in the Game of the Year discussion? And I think it's once again the biggest problem is the game that it's attached to. I think Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty was attached to Cyberpunk. And even though that was a massive update at the same time where that game completely changed, that game didn't win Game of the Year. So there's no way it could an expansion could win Game of the Year. So I guess it's like Shadow of the Erdtree, Elden Ring won Game of the Year. So it's kind of building off that again. So I guess, yeah, in one aspect, it's not that fair for them to be there. And I guess it's something we need to consider. I guess is how do you view it? How do you see it? It just means that, like, yeah, games like World of Warcraft or ongoing games or long-term games could never win Game of the Year. But yeah, I don't know. Like, never win Game of the Year after the subsequent year that it's released.
Well, yeah, because it's the year it's released. That's how it should be. You know, I'm sure there's a ton of examples of games that have gotten better after. You know,
no, but like it's
I'm sure No Man's Sky would love to be up for Game of the Year at some point.
That's different though, because there was never like an individual expansion release for No Man's Sky.
There was a lot of individual
No, updates. There was like updates and like different editions, like in terms of like remaster or re-releases. But there was never like Shadow of the Erdtree. I'll like to partially defend it. It's like it's wholly new content. It's entirely new. It's changes the very foundation of Elden Ring in terms of how the game plays and where people can go in the game. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's good enough to as a thing to be Game of the Year, but I could very much see it happening, and I'm starting to see more as we talk about it and as we discuss it. I can see more of the reasons why it's okay for it to be in there than against it.
Okay, here's my question then. So it says in there, expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories. Does that mean The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered should be in Game of the Year?
I think it's eligible, but I don't think it is. But this is no.
Why not?
We've had this.
We've
already had this. No. We've already had this because fucking Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake and all the Resident Evil remakes have been a part of Game of the Year's discussions.
Yeah.
So we've already had that precedent set.
Well, those are remakes,
but they're the same thing. But it's but it's pretty much the same thing, right? Like,
so it should be, is what you're saying.
It's eligible, yeah. If it was good enough to do it, then yes.
Is it good enough?
No, because I think as a remaster, it doesn't.
It's the exact same game, except
no.
A little bit different.
Yeah,
arguably a little bit better.
Yes, and that's why it's not.
Do you not think
enough.
Last of Us 2 is better than the crop of games that you mentioned before?
Yes, but at the same time, I think that's a different discussion because it's like, as a package, what has The Last of Us 2 Remastered done to entitle itself to Game of the Year? Not much. Like, it's still the same game. It's just in enough.
It's still the exact same game that won Game of the Year 3 years ago.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That game has already won 3 years. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree has never won Game of the Year.
Last of Us Part 2 remasters never won.
Yes, it has, because it's the same game. Shadow of the Erdtree isn't the same game in theory.
It's graphically different.
For fuck's sake, isn't the same game as if with your fucking wording, Skyrim should have been like up in the running.
If we're gonna just throw anything out the window, anything is eligible as long as it was released this calendar year.
It's eligible.
Skyrim should be eligible if it's been released on the PS5 Pro.
It's just not good enough to be nominated. Just because it's eligible to be nominated doesn't mean it will be nominated.
I don't know. Throw out your Skyrim support. Throw out the Skyrim votes. Yeah, I just feel like it's getting unnecessarily murky for the sake of stating as one of the best-selling games of the year. I feel like it's just, yeah. because it is one most popular. You just
it was massive, right?
You're just coloring the lines, blurring the lines as much as possible. Just get it in there.
No, I think it's the thing is
get more attention, more eyes on the show.
The thing is, I actually think they've made it worse by releasing this statement and this image on social medias beforehand.
I don't think it was released on social medias, right? I think they just someone noticed and
I've seen it shared everywhere. I didn't know if it was okay. Even then,
I don't know if the Game Awards specifically tweeted
I don't know.
Hey,
that's okay.
If clarifying.
If they've put it out there, then that's fine. If that's just somebody digging, because there are instances in the past couple years that ruling can apply to it. So I think it is what it is. And I think that's just people not wanting. And I understand. Like, don't get me wrong. I fucking wish and hope that like Metaphor could win Game of the Year, and it would suck for Metaphor to lose out against Elden Ring, in my opinion. But you can't deny Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree was fucking massive. It was huge.
Yep.
Was like a big thing in May of this year, like May, June of this year. To the point where it was kind of the only thing that really came out during that period because everything else cleared out. And that's generally a sign of something massive. So I think it definitely deserves to be given its flowers.
Yeah, but Game of the Year?
I think so, sadly.
Are those the flowers it needs to be given? Hasn't it got enough of flowers? From all the sales and appreciation and the goodwill?
That is a different question because it's like, once again,
does it need these flowers?
It then goes back to and I've brought this up before. What is the Video Game Awards or anybody who does Game of the Year? What is your definition of Game of the Year? Is Game of the Year the game that was the best that year, or was it the game that defined that year? Because I think those two discussions are very different discussions and are very different things. I think Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree it could be seen and could be easily considered as the game that defined this year's gaming. But then again, the best game of the year might not be, Like, I think it's, I think it just depends on each individual award show, on their definitions of what game of the year is to them.
Well said. So I've got 9 questions to make predictions for this year's Game of the Year nominations.
Okay.
I also ran these by Dylan earlier in the week, so I've got some clips for him. But here we go. Ciaran, what are the tops? What are the 6 Game of the Year nominees?
Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor, Dragon Age of Veilguard, Call of Duty 6, and what else came out this year? I feel like there's something pretty big that I'm missing. Give me 2 seconds. Game releases 2024. What have I missed that was this year? Oh god. Put in like fucking music or some shit. I don't. So even the point where like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it doesn't even make sense that it was this year. Oh, you know what? Fuck it, Power World.
Wow.
Yeah, Power World.
A game that may be pulled off the shelves in a couple of weeks
for a very low price of like $62,000.
Never to be played again. Yes, but okay, Power World. Here are Dylan's.
I'll say Astrobot. Balatro, if you're a fool. Metaphor Rephantasmio. Imagine if I said, This is a hard. It's a hard one. I feel like I've named 3 games. I'm already out of games. All right, I'm gonna say Elden Ring. Whatever the DLC is, gets in as well.
It's Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Final Fantasy Rebirth thing 2. Is that 5?
That's 5.
And then let's go. Let's go. All right, Silent Hill.
So I've gone Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor of ReFantasio, Dragon Age of Valguard, and Silent Hill 2. Which is all them horror boys. They want the horror thing.
I don't see Silent Hill making the cut.
Potentially. That could be the one that drops out because of Elden Ring.
Yeah, I think that one's the weak one.
All right. Name one Indie Game of the Year nominee.
Sorry, I say. So a couple of things is Hades 2 eligible this year?
I don't think so. It's early access.
It's early access
because obviously Hades didn't get its flowers till its flowers.
That's fair. What else have I played that's fucking indie? I was just gonna say Power World because is Power World in theory indie? Yeah,
I guess.
I think so. Right?
Again, that would be hilarious.
I just give. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say Power World.
Yeah, I mean, Dave the Diver, so why not Power World?
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, 100%.
Right, he was Dylan.
Any doesn't have to be like the one. It's it's going to be. Well, can I Balatro?
Well, I mean, other than Balatro, I'll say, seeing as you already predicted.
All right, you're 550.
Ooh, okay. It's a good pick. I'm going to say Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. I've seen that one mentioned a lot. Next one is name one of the game best performance nominees.
I'm guessing that Indiana Jones comes out too late, right?
I think so. Well, considering the nominees are...
Yeah, the nominees are out, so
tomorrow.
Indiana Jones would be out. So you would have to go with Steve Burton for Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
All right. Let's hear what Dylan said.
Performance will be nominated. Let's go. Whatever the actress who plays Aerith is. I can't remember her name.
From Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's Brianna White from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I've gone with KG Tang, who plays Ichiban Kasuga from Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. That's just personal bias there. Ciaran, name one of the most anticipated game nominees.
These are hard again because it's like I'm excited for a bunch of. Fucking South of Midnight.
Yep. Okay. Here's what Dylan said.
Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry, Ghost of whatever it's called.
Yotai. The correct answer is Grand Theft Auto 5. I don't know how either of you didn't say that.
Oh my god, I just didn't think of that. That's definitely going to be the winner as well. Yeah.
Okay. Next one is a category I think you've got the best chance of getting the correct answer.
If it's anything to do with esports, I get the fucking worst one. I don't do it.
Name one Content Creator of the Year nominee.
Content creator? Oh, Kai Cenat.
I wrote down Kai Cenat, so I feel better now.
Kai Cenat's the easy one.
I think he may be too obvious.
You've got to go with like Kai Cenat. You've got to go with like a Speed. Those two are like the top two probably in there. They always have like a normal one, like maybe like an Emeru or something. Yeah, it just depends on where they go with it or who's voting again.
Yeah, here's Dylan's pick.
Content Creator of the Year. Valkyrie.
I don't know. I think it was just naming somebody.
Yeah, Valkyrie was definitely
Okay.
She'll be in there, but I think she was nominated last year, so I don't think she will be nominated again. Also, minor thing, Content Creator of the Year will be one of the many fucking awards that is just randomly read off on side stage with no real presentations. No. Not a chance. Even if they're there, not going to happen.
How many nominations will Elden Ring get?
So it's going to get Game of the Year. It'll get Best Action/Adventure Game. If there is Best Expansion/DLC, it'll get
there
that.
isn't a category.
There isn't? That's surprising. Potentially Best Narrative. I think 4. I'm going to go with 4.
Dylan?
4. Do you mean different categories?
Yeah.
4.
I've gone over this. I'm going 5. You know, I think what?
I guess you could like slap it into like best
ongoing
direction.
game, community support, action game.
I don't think it fits into ongoing game.
No, they're going to stick it in anyway.
Support.
Best direction.
I think it'll get best direction, and I can see it could get like
Player's Voice Award.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Here we go. What do we got next? Which of the 3 console makers will have the most nominations?
Nintendo.
Most nominations, which are the big thing? Most to say Astro gets in there. Nintendo would have to be a thing, but it'll only be family game. But Sony.
I'm also going to go Sony. I mean, they do have just Astrobot, really. But
Astrobot
I guess you can kind of put Helldivers. Lego Horizon may just, get some family stuff.
I forgot Helldivers was this year. Helldivers should be in Game of the Year.
Maybe.
Should be in the nominations at least. You see, I think Nintendo gets stuff like Nintendo easily gets like
all
best
family stuff.
Gets all the family stuff. Gets like game of the gets like the. Yeah, I think there's enough. I think Nintendo just gets a lot of weird shit. Where I think Sony's been maybe a little bit too quiet. It's not getting any nominations for Concord, am I right?
You don't know. Best multiplayer game. We can all agree it's not going to be Xbox.
Best multiplayer game that didn't even last 2 weeks. Okay.
It's good while it lasted. Anyway, will there be a Best Adaptation Award this year?
Yeah, I'll just go to Arcane Season 2.
My follow-up question, if yes, will Borderlands get nominated?
God, no.
There's only 5.
And if it does, if it does, it's a raw. No, I think it's easy to... I think you can do 5 without. Could I do it? Name them? No, but I think you could do 5 without.
Here's what Dylan said.
What came out this year? Nothing. No. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say yes. And they won't dominate Borderlands. Here's my pick for the top 5 nominees. Knuckles, the TV show. Fallout. Arcane. Yakuza Like a Dragon. And then the Tomb Raider animated series.
I feel like 2 of those are a bit of a hey, we're here to fill slots so we can get
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's going to be Borderlands. All right, last question. What game will have the most nominations?
Do I go with my heart or my head? I'm going to go with my heart and say Metaphor ReFantasia.
All right. Dylan.
What game will get the most nominations at the Game Awards? So, Game of the Year, Action Adventure. Yeah, I'll go Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I'm going to go with my heart and the one that has a significant disadvantage to a couple of other games.
Yakuza or Astrobot? Okay.
Astrobot. Okay. It's going to miss out on all those voice acting nominations, performance nominations, but I think, pick up a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah. Looking forward to see who's right come Tuesday here in Australia. All right, let's move on to the next story. Phil Spencer had a massive interview over at Bloomberg, reading from Eurogamer, who kind of go over the article. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has said there's nothing stopping any of the company's games coming to Nintendo or PlayStation platforms in the future. I do not see some sort of red line in our portfolio that says thou must not, Spencer told Bloomberg. adding that it's still too early to discuss Microsoft's plans for the next Halo now being built in the cross-platform friendly Unreal Engine. Of course, Xbox launched Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, Sea of Thieves across the mixture of PlayStation and Nintendo Switch consoles earlier this year to some success, with more than 1 million sales reported for Rare's popular Piratical? Is that the way to pronounce that? Piratical? Live service game? Okay. Microsoft will follow this with a PlayStation launch for Xbox's biggest Christmas blockbuster, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, early next year. The expectation is that many other Xbox games will follow. Do you think we're seeing the end of Xbox exclusives as we kind of know them?
Yes. Just based on the fact, I think Microsoft / Xbox is just going to shift into a mentality that is much like their computer mentality. That is just, we're a software provider. We will we'll give you a place. We'll give you our own place. Like Microsoft in computers has the Surface and it has its own hardware, but it's just going to be like, you're going to get Game Pass everywhere else. And as long as everybody else plays well and everybody else is good, or like I could imagine us seeing PlayStation getting Game Pass.
Yeah, the more that I think about it, the more likely I think it is that a day will come where there will be a form of Game Pass.
Yes,
on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, which I would assume would be more just exclusive.
I reckon
just Xbox first party games.
Switch will happen day and date with the Switch 2.
Wow, that's like very soon.
That is, but I could see that happening. I could see that happening day and date Switch 2. I think as long as the Switch 2 has enough of a hardware upgrade that it makes sense, yes, I see day and date Xbox jumping on that shit and being like, yeah, there's Game Pass. Take it. I think PlayStation, it'll be a weird version of Game Pass on PlayStation, because PlayStation will be like, well, you can't have that on our Game Pass. You can't have that on our Game Pass. You can't have that on our Game Pass.
No, it'll just be first party.
I don't even think it'll be. I don't think, because I don't believe you'll be able to get Call of Duty or stuff like that through the Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation.
Yeah, maybe not. Did you see the numbers? Apparently, like 75% of people still bought it on PlayStation despite it being on Game Pass.
Yeah. But I think that's also because I don't think many people realized that it was already on Game Pass. I think because I didn't realize until I looked at it and went, oh, fuck, okay, Call of Duty is on a Game Pass. Sweet, I'll download that.
Fuck, they're fucking up their messaging. If you didn't know it was on Game Pass.
Yeah, if I don't know it.
Who's on the gaming podcast, didn't know it was.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I think the day is coming sooner than we know it that, Halo will be on a PlayStation, which is wild. But also,
technically, Halo's already on a PlayStation because you can play Master Chief on Fortnite.
You can play Destiny, which is technically Halo 6.
I just think it's past the point where I actually think for a company, and I think PlayStation will be very slow in doing this, but they'll eventually come around to it, that exclusivity isn't what is going to make you, isn't the most profitable way as a business. Getting your IPs on the most amount of consoles and the most amount of hands and the most amount of eyes is the best way. And I think Sony's already realizing this slowly with the PC, whether it takes them a while to do it properly, because I think Sony has a problem with not so much letting go control, but it's like, well, we'll give you it, but we'll give you it under our circumstances in our way where you have to be signed into like PlayStation Network to be able to play any of our games. Like, I just think that'll be, and it'll just be like that. But I think because, and this is primarily because I think the PlayStation 5 Pro launch shows that in itself, right? That like hardware isn't all, like we're at the point now in technology, like we are with phones, where phones you don't have to get the new phone every year that it comes out, because it's not going to be a big jump. And I think we're out of the point where we're not making big jumps anymore. If you still had a PlayStation 4, making a jump to the PlayStation 5 Pro, if you had the money and if you were interested and you had everything else, makes sense. Having a PlayStation 5 jumping to a Pro doesn't really make sense. It's a fucking big, it's a big lump of money to make that jump across and up for not a big enough increase in performance and kind of whatever it's actually giving to you as a player.
I don't think PlayStation will ever go. I don't think they'll ever put a PlayStation game outside of MLB The Show on a Xbox console. I think they still believe exclusivity is a big deal, and I think they just need to look at the other competition in Nintendo who rely almost exclusively on exclusives to stay alive to justify it.
But I think that's just different because it's Nintendo, though. I don't think, personally, I think it's a fucking really dumb idea to look at Nintendo and think we're going to replicate that and be able to survive off that. Because that's fuck. Because Nintendo is fuck. Like Nintendo is the anomaly. Nintendo isn't like the rule. It is the outlier. It is the hey, we can release subpar to behind hardware because of our exclusive IP and stuff. Whereas if PlayStation did that currently, I think it would swing things back. Like, say if in
but
like
they don't have the subpar hardware, so
No, but if they did, if they turned around and they took the same mentality to Nintendo in their future hardware releases, and they go, "Oh, we don't have to care so much about hardware anymore because we're fucking PlayStation and we can do whatever the fuck we want now." That's the thing. That is the arrogance I talk about with Sony. That they
I don't think
100%
they're
have.
that arrogant.
Oh, I think they,
as
I
proved
think
by
they
the
will
fact
get
that they
to.
put out the best console that you can apparently buy out the market.
But
they care about those technical stuff.
No,
as well.
but they think this is the thing, right? I think Sony won't look at the PlayStation Pro as a success because it's not a success. You know
how is it not a success? It's sold out all over the place.
Scalpers who bought the console are currently selling PlayStation Pro at a loss.
Well,
because people aren't. Because PlayStation has already restocked everything that was sold out. Like it
is
isn't.
That's just taking advantage of the scalpers.
No, it's not. No. I think you are copium in here. The PlayStation Pro.
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I assume
I don't think it's going to be a success. I think it's going to be it's even like
just wait till Christmas.
I don't even think till Christmas. Who the fuck's going to buy a $1,200 console at Christmas this year?
Very guilty parents.
I don't even think guilty fucking parents will. I just don't.
Guilty parents, guilty spouses.
Even more so in Australia, where I'm in the minority because discless console, fuck yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Majority of people in Australia, they're not buying. They're
not
not buying it. Yeah, they're not buying a discless console, and they're not going to understand that they can order a disc tray for it. Or if they do get lulled into the hey, you can order a disc tray for it, there are still people who bought PlayStation Pro day and date that they are waiting for their disc trays because they are on backlog because PlayStation fucked up that badly.
Mm.
Like I just don't think. I don't think the Pro. Like there is nothing about the Pro that is enough of a jump to the fact where people are still comfortably playing video games on their PlayStation 4.
People are still comfortably playing games on their Game Boys and Nintendo 64s.
No. But the thing, no. That's different though. What I'm saying is they're playing new games on like games are still being released in their full form on PlayStation 4. Like there is not enough. Like in previous years, there was a solid enough reason to jump generations, and this is for Xbox as well. Maybe Xbox had more of a reason because its previous generation sucked, but the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, there are still people in the PlayStation ecosystem that haven't felt the need to jump up because they don't really need to. Other than a couple games that are PlayStation 5 exclusive, we are what? How many years into the PlayStation 5's life cycle? Like I think 5, right? Like
4. Post-pandemic, right?
Yeah, like 4.
No. Yeah,
I think it's 5. I think we're halfway because they think they've said that the PlayStation 5 is a 10-year console cycle, and so we're halfway through it, and people still aren't feeling like they need to jump across to it. I know as a PlayStation 5 owner, there's sometimes where I'm like, you look at it and you go, like how many of the games am I playing? Am I playing because I've got a PlayStation 5? Because I've got access to it elsewhere. I could have bought on my PlayStation 4. I think is I don't think and this happens more and more. I think this is going to happen the same with PlayStation 5, PlayStation 6, even more so. Hardware is going to get more and more diminishing in the amount of jumps in power, efficiency, and whatever it is. Because it's like phones, right? Phones have gone to the point where it's the software that's mattering more than the hardware. And I fucking hope that we don't ever get... Like, I'm kind of glad that so far consoles have never got to that point, like they have with phones, where people are in the system and are comfortable with swapping phones every year.
All right. Also in the review, Spencer discussed his long-held desire to launch some kind of Xbox handheld. Microsoft is currently working on prototypes and considering the market, Spencer said, though the launch of an official Xbox handheld is still a few years out, so no Xbox handheld before Switch 2. Will there be room in the market for an Xbox handheld by the time?
Yes.
In 2 years?
Yes. Because there's already room in the market currently for things other than the Steam Deck. The Ally's done well. Razer's version's done there is multiple other handheld PCs currently. They are just handheld PCs that are doing well at the moment in the market. Yes, you could say that's because Steam Deck doesn't have the hasn't been available in everywhere. But like, you know what? How people I'm so excited for this week because 2 days away from Steam Deck pre-orders, orders opening here in Australia.
You gonna do the black or the white?
I would love the white.
Extra $60.
I would love the white. I think I'd prefer the black though. I think the white looks better, but I think long-term wear and tear. The long-term wear and tear is just gonna go better on a black console than it will on a white console. Yeah, like the Steam Deck. I think if Microsoft takes the time to learn from the Steam Deck, learn from these other consoles that do it, and bring something up really fucking good, which, you know what, it's fucking Microsoft, so who the fuck knows? Because, you know, they've attempted phones, they never did a phone well. Surfaces are good, but they're not massively... The Zune is their attempt at... so they haven't had the best strike rate. But, you know, there's enough of a case study currently for them to see what is out there currently for them to hopefully make something good.
I mean, if they're all in on the cloud streaming thing, you know, all they need to do is a, you know, Xbox version of the PS Portal, except
no
internet everywhere, you know.
No.
Just put that SIM card in, you know.
I don't think they'll do the PS Portal. I think even now, PlayStation's like, you motherfuckers going to full consoles now. We tried that years ago and it didn't work for us. Why? Now we've got this Portal out. And people love the Portal and they're enjoying the Portal, but I think, you know, for me personally, Portal's $300, but I'd much rather, and I'm much more excited for spending $900 on a Steam Deck in 2 days.
Right. Well, Spencer also said Xbox still definitely wants to be in the market to acquire other companies, following Microsoft's record-setting $68.7 billion buyout of Activision Blizzard. That said, deals of a similar size were currently unlikely due to the still ongoing process of merging in Activision. The Xbox chief said they're still looking for deals that add geographic diversity, such as teams in Asia, despite it walking away from Hi-Fi Rush studio Tango Gameworks earlier this year. And then he also said the Xbox business has never been more healthy. The business is performing right now, and I think that means a more healthy future for hardware and games. When asked how he felt about 2025 after a year punctuated by repeated layoffs.
You know what, right? It's like somebody who's just cut off their arm. Be like, hey, I'm the healthiest I've ever been.
Feels so good right now.
I feel so good right now. I'm so fucking healthy. I keep cutting parts off my body, and that's the thing. I just
way less than I ever have.
Yeah, exactly right. I have lost so much weight losing a leg. I don't love that section. And I don't love... of course, they're going to be open to new deals. Yeah. Of course, they're going to be open to looking at other things. But at the same time, it would also be nice just to be like, hey, we're happy with what we got at the moment. We're going to try and build
really like all our studios to actually put out games before.
Yes, but we're building to be a more sustainable company. And that we will be sustainable so that we can avoid in the future, avoid layoffs. Or avoid as massive constant layoffs like we currently have been.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a much better answer. I'd be much happier with that answer. And I'd be like, yes, sweet, good job, Uncle Phil.
Cool. And then you can surprise us with these acquisitions later.
Yeah, exactly, right?
We don't need to know that you're going to want to buy more companies. You know what I mean?
We just want to know that you'll protect the jobs that you are, the people that
currently
you already
responsible
employ.
for. Yeah.
Exactly, right? You don't want to, in one hand, tell me how successful PlayStation games have been, like putting games on consoles other than your own have been, but then probably the one that was the most successful out of all the ones you put on a PlayStation, you shit can the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
That's no.
All right. Moving on to the last story of this week, and I think I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this. Reading from Press Starts, Blizzard has announced that Overwatch Classic will bring many of the original elements of the original game back in a series of events. The first event will take place on November 12th until December 2nd, taking it all the way back to the original 1.0 release from May 2016, including many abilities that haven't been seen in years. This will bring the original 12 Overwatch maps back to modes such as Assault, Escort, Hybrid, and Control. The full update that you can read on the Blizzard website says that the heroes will be grouped in the original 4 classes, but you will not be required to only play as attackers when you're on an attack or defenders when defending, instead being able to pick the best hero that works for you. For the first few days, there'll be no limits on picking heroes, so there will be able to be the same 6 heroes on the one team. That'll be turned off a little bit into the event. Overwatch Classic will appear as a mode within Overwatch 2, and Shannon highly recommends checking out the FAQ on the Blizzard website for more information. I mean, it's worked for World of Warcraft, going back to Classic.
Wait a minute. Let me look at my calendar for a second. Oh, Marvel Rivals comes out in like 2-3 weeks. What a coincidence that Overwatch has gone back to where it thinks it was successful. Haha. Marvel. This is lining up with Marvel Rivals coming out December 6th. Marvel Rivals have recently released their roadmap. Kind of released that. I don't know if you've heard this or you saw this, but Marvel Rivals is releasing with 33 heroes.
That sounds about right, based on it seems like every other week there's an announcement of different.
Well, at the minute they've only announced 28. So in the time period, and they're currently doing a countdown. In the time period, they've got another 5 heroes to announce, which is fucking ridiculous. But for me, like original Overwatch, like 2016 Overwatch 1.0 was not good. At the minute where it's no limitless, everybody was running double Winston, double Tracer, double Lucio, and it was not fun. A lot of the hitbox, a lot of the characters were not great. I think this is it's a couple of things. One, it's an attempt to not only win back its fans and go back to 6v6 and to test is 6v6 just better for our game, but it's a very cheap way of them being like, hey, remember when we were good? And you know what, Overwatch at this point, Overwatch 2 should just drop the Overwatch 2, like the number 2 from it, and just go back to calling itself Overwatch, because everything that it announced that made it Overwatch 2 is either being stripped back or is non-existent anymore. Because if you think back to its release and the announcement for it, it was that it was going to a 5v5 structure where they're currently testing 6v6, and it was going to have PvE, and there was going to be this big PvE story, and the PvE stuff doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going back full circle to what it was prior to Overwatch 2 being released. So in theory, it should just relaunch itself as Overwatch. And it just feels like a cheap, unhealthy, like it feels like, we the audience are a 16-year-old girl after a breakup that their ex is just texting them being like, hey, I've changed, I cheated on you, I failed, I let you down, but I changed, but I changed and come back
on
to
my
me,
surface
girl.
level.
Come back to me, guy.
I dye my hair.
Yeah, I'm a different person now. And then it's just toxic. To me, it's just a toxic relationship. I had my friends be like, "Hey, do you want to come play?" And I was like, "No, I refuse." And because I was like, "Oh, what do you want to play today?" And he's like, "Oh," and I was like, "No." And he's like, "You haven't even said what I said." I said, "No, I'm not going to install that game ever again." And I stand by that. I do not want to ever install Overwatch ever again. And I'm really excited for Marvel Rivals. I'm excited to have that gameplay loop happen again and to play it, but this is not a good thing. I don't see this as a good thing. This is like a cheap, it's not even going to stick around. This is a cheap like hit to be like, hey, still love me, even though there is that really handsome looking guy over there that's really good for you and has, he's got a good future and a good head on his shoulders and he's going to treat you right. Don't go over there. Just stay here with me. And no.
So, no Overwatch Classic.
No Overwatch Classic. No.
I mean, to me, it makes sense, I guess, to play off the nostalgia thing,
It would make sense if it was an anniversary.
It's like...
The Overwatch anniversary is in May.
Okay, no, yeah.
It's November.
No, it's just clearly, getting ready for the holidays, need a boost. Again, trying to cash in on the idea based on...
I can't remember if I said
World
this
of Warcraft.
to friends or on a podcast. The only time I see Overwatch spoken about prior to this is when new skins get brought out.
You've said that before, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's the only time I hear about Overwatch anymore is new skins. And that's... No, thank you. I don't need that in my life.
Mentioning World of Warcraft, I think it's interesting that they just... I think they announced the Panda expansion they're about to bring.
Yeah, Mr. Pandaria
to Classic.
Yep.
Which I feel is at the point that people started to get off World of Warcraft the first time.
Yes and no. I think people got off in waves.
So how far away are we from World of Warcraft Classic?
Going back again? I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think I think World of Warcraft is World of Warcraft is a different case because the original WoW experience was so much different to what it is in the modern day. So it makes sense to go back. Like World of Warcraft, like the original World of Warcraft, that was going back when it was released. That was going back like 15 years worth of content.
Yeah.
This Overwatch stuff, it's going back to like 2016. And like
still a long time.
It's really not. It's fucking 8 years.
8 years is a long time.
It was, and it looks even worse when it's like we're going back to 6v6, which we tried to kill with Overwatch 2 being released, which was 2 years ago. Like
all those esports players that got fired, we're going to go back.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like I think like my biggest thing is forever since like kind of reading segments from the Jason Schreiber book, from interviews with old Team 4 devs. The biggest thing about the Overwatch team and Overwatch in general is Overwatch in 2016 was an accident. Was that the team didn't know what they had. They pretty much accidentally released a game of the year, and then they didn't know how to carry on that success because they spent their time still being like, oh, we're still working towards an MMO. This game right here, it's going really well, but we're going to work towards an MMO still.
Yeah.
And we've launched an esports league and we've done all this stuff and we keep kind of like it turned into like laying the tracks in front of the train and while the train's still going,
Yeah.
And I think Overwatch is just /Blizzard is now paying for it slightly.
We'll see. Give it time. Overwatch League is going to be great. All right, let's wrap this show up. Let us know what you thought of anything we discussed on this week's episode. How close are we going to be with our predictions? By going to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter, jump to our Discord at explosionnetwork.com/Discord, or find us at ExplosionPod on other social media. If you want to help us out here at Arcade Couch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. Anyone leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you've liked this episode, thought it was $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnetwork.com/supports. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you here next week, same time, same couch. Probably talk about the game of nominations. Bye.